So, I'm sure you've seen these strange underground bunker stories on documentaries or even Netflix. Perhaps you believe they're made up because they're simply too bizarre to be true. Well, I'm here to tell you they're 100% accurate, and I didn't even know other humans existed until I was 18 years old. Apart from my grandparents, that is. But before I continue, I will smile every time someone enjoys this video. So please, I've been through a lot in my life, and I believe I'm entitled to a grin. Remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. Now, please take a seat and allow me to explain to you about the world.
"We've escaped the dreadful realm above,"
were my grandparents' favourite words.
"See, it was a dangerous place up above the ground."
Those were his favourite words for as long as I can remember.
"We knew that someday it would be impossible to live there. There were wars, famine, pandemics, and zombies. So we began stockpiling food in this bunker, and your grandmother made jams and jellies out of nearly every fruit she could find, as well as doing a lot of other things to make this area comfortable. Then we heard that something was going to be dropped from the planes to wipe out everyone. That was the signal for us to go. So Francis, do you know what? There are no more humans up there except for us three, and it's not safe to go up there since the stuff in the planes is still present. I probably turned the animals into zombies, and they're roaming around just waiting to attack us if we leave. We could die immediately. Your mom and dad didn't listen to us, so they perished. They're gone. It's unfortunate we're all you have left."
And I believed him, because there was no one to tell me a different story. Anyway, my grandmother taught me how to read, and I grew up reading a lot of novels and daydreaming about how life used to be before everyone was wiped out. Fortunately, our bunker was quite advanced. We had running water, which my grandmother said originated from an above-ground water filtration system he had built. Thankfully, we had a flushing toilet, but we didn't have many of the amenities that you have now. The internet, cell phones, and computers are examples. We didn't have any technology at all. You're undoubtedly curious about a normal day in my life. Well, I became aware of my surroundings. Yeah, I had a cute tiny room, ate breakfast out of a can, read a little, and I took some lessons from my grandfather. Maybe I used to play board games, like playing Scrabble with my grandfather. I played the clarinet for approximately an hour before eating something again from a can for lunch. More reading was done, as well as more clarinet and board game playing. Can you imagine doing this every single day? Of course, I got really bored, and by the time I was 18, I thought that I needed some excitement in my life. I thought really long and hard about it, because I was honestly terrified, and I honestly believed my grandfather's stories. But I needed a change. So one night, or at least I believed it was night, but how do you determine time in a bunker underground? In any case, I climbed the stairs to the bunker's entrance, opened the wooden door, and pushed my way out. It wasn't even close to being night. The sun shone brightly inside, and the sky was a stunning blue. It was magical, and these are the things you all take for granted. I wasn't wearing any shoes, and I walked on the grass just to see how I would feel. I laughed because it tickled. Then I froze in horror, wondering if the deadly substances all around me could cause my feet to fall off. I continued walking till I came to a small house that I imagined was my grandparents' home before they relocated underground. I entered the room and had a look around. Then I returned to the outside. So many of the amazing things I'd only read about in books were in front of my eyes. I came upon an apple tree and picked one. I'd been into it for a while, and it seemed like electricity was coursing through my veins. This was my first experience with fresh fruit. I kept walking and walking, as if I was in a trance. I felt like I was walking for hours and not paying attention to where I was going. Then it hit me, like literally, I was hit by a car. I blacked out and woke up in the hospital. To be honest, I thought I was dead, because how would I have just ended up in this place if humans didn't exist anymore? "What's your name, young man?" I heard a voice say. I looked up and saw a middle-aged man staring into my face. Am I that ugly? "You most certainly are not dead. You were hit by a car. Fortunately, the damage is minor. I should be able to discharge you soon. People still exist. You didn't die at all from the poisonous stuff or from the planes. Huh? What now? My grandparents told me there was no other people. Yeah, okay, enough with the games. Do you have the contact information for any of your family members so someone can come and pick you up? Listen, I'm serious. I sat up and told the doctor my whole story. He was skeptical at first, I'm sure, but after a while he seemed to believe me. He called a few nurses and other doctors in, and they all stared at me like I fell from another planet. Is it him? I think it's him. How could we get in touch with his parents? Call the media? This is big. Listen, I said to the doctor, would anyone care to let me know what's going on? Well, Francis, many years ago, a baby was kidnapped from his parents' house, the same week his grandparents went missing for 2 years. The town thought that the two stories were unrelated, but it seemed like your grandparents kidnapped you. So the stuff about the world being a horrible place isn't true. Well, it can be horrible sometimes, but certainly not in the way you've described it. So my parents are alive? I believe they are. We're going to try and get in contact with them. I could feel my head spinning out of control. This was too much to take in. After about an hour, a man and woman came rushing into my room. It's him! It's my baby boy, my son, my perfect son. Oh, come to Mummy. Wow, I can't believe it's you. I thought we'd never see you again. Are you? Are you my parents? Of course. Can't you see you're the spinning image of your father? We thought you'd been kidnapped by terrible people. What happened? I told them the same story I told the doctor, and they looked like they were about to cry. You mean you were so close to us this whole time? I feel like a terrible mum. I should have been able to track you down. My parents gave me a deep hug and then asked me if I wanted to come home with them. I mean, I didn't have much of a choice. We headed downstairs to the car once I got up. This, I believe, is what sent me to the hospital. I mentioned that I had never been in a car, and when my father got behind the wheel, I was terrified. How could I be sitting and moving at the same time? When we got back to the house, my parents introduced me to my siblings. I had no idea I had siblings. There were 2 younger sisters, Malene, 12, and Piper, 16, but my immediate favourite was a baby boy named Tyler. Then they let me hold him. I thought I was on the verge of crying. I'd only ever read about babies in books before. I never thought I'd be able to hold one. This was surreal, and I instantly became obsessed. We have a guest room for you upstairs that will be yours. I'll let Piper show you where it is. Well, as I prepared dinner, I went upstairs with Piper, who couldn't stop staring at me. Mum and Dad called me from the hospital to say they found our older brother. They had me 2 years after you disappeared, but they could never stop talking about you. We always hoped you'd come back someday. I can't wait to hear of all your stories from the bunker with our crazy grandparents. And don't worry, I'll teach you all about life up here. That night's meal was wild. We had fresh vegetables, lasagna, potatoes, and fresh fruit juice, which was the first time I had ever eaten something that wasn't from a can. We didn't have a freezer in the bunker. My favourite part was the ice cream we enjoyed for dessert, so it was my first taste of it. Amazing! You can take all this for granted. That night, I slept in my new bed with the window open wide so I could feel the breeze on my face. The night smelled amazing, and I spent a lot of time staring at the moon and stars before falling asleep. It seemed weird for me as well. The next morning, I woke up, walked downstairs, and saw my whole family staring at a box. There were people in the box, and they were moving and speaking. Is this a television? I asked, and everyone started laughing. Yeah, come sit with us. Our favorite show is on. Mum made pancakes. We'll eat them later. I sat next to Piper, and she squeezed my hand. My mum and dad couldn't stop staring at me, and I couldn't believe this was actually happening. Then I heard a weird ringing sound and jumped. What was that? The telephone. Don't worry. How does it work? Well, it's just a device that lets you speak to someone who isn't nearby. Oh, wow.
We have so much to teach you. How about going for a walk with the girls after breakfast? When you come back, we'll take you to another few places."
Okay, Dad. I took my baby brother in my arms and left the house with my sister. The neighborhood seemed really peaceful and clean. There were some people jogging, and others were walking their dogs. I had never seen a dog before, so this was a pretty big deal for me. Whoa, it's so fluffy.
Well, one day we can take you to the zoo when you can see everything. Pandas, elephants, tigers.
Wow, I love it here. I stayed far away from the road and from cars for obvious reasons. When we got back home, my mum had some people over.
"Hey, Francis, some guys of your age from the neighborhood. They came here to meet you. Why don't you go and hang out with them?"
Sure. Hi, everyone. There were 3 guys, Joe, Billy, and Peter, and they were much bigger than I was. I guess it's because I was fed that horrible canned food for ages, and I barely exercised. Come on! Billy has a huge garage. We could go chill up there. Okay, I gave my baby brother back to my mum and walked away with the guys. The garage actually reminded me a bit of the bunker, but there were so many snacks I hadn't seen before, so I quickly forgot about that. So what do you like to do for fun, bunker boy? Don't call me that. No, it's okay. Well, I guess I'll have to find out what's down there. All I did was read and sleep. Whoa, well, we're in a band, Billy said as he pointed to some instruments in the corner. Peter plays the bass guitar, Joe plays a keyboard, and I'm the lead singer. Our drummer moved to another state last month. I walked over and sat in front of the drum set. How does it work? You just take the sticks and bang it. I did as they said, and when I was done, they looked shocked. You had a drum set down in the bunker? Didn't you know? Didn't that sound terrible? No, you sounded great. They convinced me that I should join their band and come to their rehearsals the next week. I agreed because I was just so happy to have people my age to talk to. Plus, I didn't know how I'd qualify to go to college. My sister had been telling me all about that, but you see, I've never been to school, so how would that work? I went back home feeling optimistic. I opened the front door and my mum was holding the baby, looking extremely worried. What's wrong with your grandparents? We sent the police to the location you gave us, but when they got there, they vanished. We have no idea where they could be. I was somewhat concerned. It's possible that all of the stories they told me about the horrible world above were made up. But what if they truly believed everything they told? What would they do if they were confronted with everything? What if they were also hit by cars? I mean, I'm not glad that they took my parents and my childhood away from me, but they took care of me and loved me for a long time. I didn't want them to suffer any damage. I've been living with my parents for about a year, and I've had to adjust to a lot of different situations. It's wonderful up here, yet my grandparents are still missing. If you see them, please let them know that they are welcome to return home and everything will be fine.